today I'm talking not to just one David Byrne, but in fact, two David Byrnes. Helen Joo and Lucky Stiff are two of the dozen David Byrnes currently escorting theatergoers through the interactive, site-specific, environmental production Theater of the Mind here in Chicago. And I have to ask, what's it been like diving into David Byrne's mind?
Well, he's singular. That is a singular individual. There is truly no one like this man. And he wasn't super present during rehearsals, but the couple of times we got to interact with him, I was just like, yeah, nobody can be David Byrne. And yet we are all on some level kind of trying to. So that's an interesting.
I love the notion that we are all, in fact, David Byrne in in some way. Was that part of? Can you talk a little bit about the audition process? They were looking for many different kinds of people to play David in this interactive tour. Did they ask you about who are you? How did they investigate your identity and factor that into the portrayal of David in this show?
They asked for a self-tape, and if I remember correctly, Lucky, they also asked a personal question.
Yeah.
Like, tell us something surprising about what people would find surprising about you.
Yeah, it was a 1 minute story we were asked to tell about like a surprising skill or fact or something about ourselves. Yeah, I've forgotten that they had done that, but it was kind of interesting being asked something so personal. And they were very kind afterwards and sent a note saying, thank you everyone for sharing your deep stories about yourself, because it was a little chorus line-ish, like it's like, who are you as a person? But so much of what we do in this show is just being a version of ourselves through telling the story, that it felt like maybe it was important.
Yeah, do you remember your answer? Because mine wasn't that deep.
Yeah, I told them
Actually,
that I have like a hobby giving people gender-affirming haircuts. And I have like no training for this whatsoever, but sometimes people just really want to chop off all their hair, and I like to be there as the person who can do that for them. And it started
oh
in
my God,
literally high school. I've been sort of on and off doing it for years and years.
do you
I
cut your
love
own
that
hair?
you're a gender affirming Sherpa
I
to a
kind of
certain
like
degree.
that too. Yeah, I have cut my own hair. I prefer to have someone else do it because it's so much harder when you're doing it on yourself. But yeah, for people that are just like, I just want to chop it off. I want something super short, kind of punk, where the edges can be a little bit rough. I'm like, I'm there.
And yet you still want to keep your hair that natural green. You don't want to dye it a different color.
I know it just grows out of my head like this.
Yeah.
And
Helen, what
Helen, can
story
you
did you
share
tell?
what?
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, we were asking the same question.
Yeah, what
Mine.
I
I
want to.
think,
I hope that your answer, Helen, was that I'm a secret potty mouth, because that was the lovely thing to discover
yeah,
about you
It's not
during
a
Christmas Carol.
secret.
it's kind of, that's no secret. I swear like a pirate. Mine was, I think I'm a really nice person because I can be uh, violent in a safe manner. And what I mean by that, and people get surprised because I think I look like a very nice person, but that's why I love boxing and kickboxing. I used to do MMA before I tore my ACL. And to be able to get that rage that I feel being a woman in this country out of my body, I have to hit something and to do it safely. And I feel like this is my theory on everybody, that everyone needs some kind of safe way to take out that rage, whether it be cheering at a sports event, um, doing the deed, or like playing video games. You need a way to like get it out of your animal body and your animal brain. And so I think that's why like and I haven't done it lately and I need to.
That was the most fun for me about playing Scrooge. I found it therapeutic and cathartic to get all of that
hmm
nasty energy, saying things you would never say in real life, out.
Yeah.
I have played a lot of
Yeah.
villains now that I think about it.
See, and you're a nice person. I just think nice people play the best villains.
Hmm.
And how much of that? So then in the rehearsals, I mean, what's fascinating to me about this whole project is that the audience gets one David Byrne, and I mean, that would be the fun part of returning each at different times, multiple times. You get to see different David Byrnes. you're all doing this monologue, this 85-minute monologue. How did who you were inform the David that you became?
Yeah, they did tell us in the rehearsal process that one of the things that's so specific to this production is there's the guide, which is like the capital, you know, G of what kind of a character needs to tell this particular story and how they need to move through the different tasks that we do with the audience or games or whatever. And then there's our guide, which are the interpretations that we individually can make around that character.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're all
Mm-hmm.
saying the same thing, but we're all such different people that we can't all play the character exactly the same way. And the creative team and the director, Andrew Scoville, said, this is not what we want, actually. What we want is for you to bring yourself to the piece. And we split up into groups of three that kind of rotated during rehearsal. So we've all kind of seen everybody do at least pieces of the role. And we're all so different, wildly different.
It actually made me feel like, oh wow, casting really does have a hard job. Because everyone watching everybody do it, everyone is so good and so different. We would say during this rehearsal period that like, oh, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take that bit. I'm the way you said that. Like, and we are all kind of like also now each other because I've taken so many things from other
Yeah,
people,
we're all
other Davids.
stealing everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Steal from the best. And
Mhm.
even if you are stealing, Helen, you steal something from Lucky, it's not going to be Lucky. It's going to be Helen doing a thing. You know, I have, I have zero problem with that sort of theft. And of course, you're stealing from David Byrne too. Did you feel like you were tapping into reservoirs of your own that surprised you?
I think what it's making me think of, because I don't think this is a spoiler, but it is about looking back on your life. Can I say that, do you think,
That
Lucky?
makes sense.
Is that okay? Using fun science and also like using David Byrne's inspired life to take you through that. And so I've been thinking about my own life a lot more lately. And so what I hope for when people come through is that they can think about that after the show, to also look back as David Byrne has been looking back, and seeing how memory plays into it, how your own judgment on yourself and, plays into it, and ultimately peace about your life. So that's what I've been thinking about on the daily since I started doing this show.
Yeah. There are some like brief recorded vocal cameos that David Byrne makes throughout this piece. I think that is also public knowledge at this point. And every once in a while, when you're in like a scene, because you are by yourself, and then you obviously have the scene partners in the audience that comes through every time. When you're in a scene where David Byrne's voice is talking to you, I find myself occasionally like picking up some of his cadences or mannerisms or things, which I try not to do because obviously you're trying to preserve your performance, but it's hard not to because we're doing it so many times in a week. And so I do feel like little pieces of his mannerisms and speech have sort of leached into what I'm doing, which I think is great because we're sort of him kind of ish.
Oh, we forgot to say that David Byrne was in the callback.
He was, yeah.
He was there. And so basically you did another piece from the show, and then we had this interactive piece where you had to lead him and two other people through these fake art gallery things. And I don't think this is a secret, so I can share this. But it was like, oh, we're going to look at this like fun little plastic toy and let's talk about it. And David Byrne was right there, and he's exactly how you think he'd be. It's just like present, but he's thinking about some, I don't know how many wheels are turning in his head while he was there. That's my impression. Like he's always thinking and creating while being there talking to you. That's how it felt. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the performance schedule? Because you're each guiding 15 audience members through these exhibits. It feels like the show really feels like a throwback to his art school days, where you're walking us through various galleries that depict an element or a room, an experience, a part of David Byrne's life. What's it been like getting to or having to interact with the audience?
Yeah. I would say, like, if you're thinking about this show being, I don't know, 30% just saying the lines, 30% moving through the space and doing the sort of like physical choreography. There's also technical elements that we're triggering ourselves. And then another whole third of the show is audience facilitation. And sometimes I don't know what your experiences have been like, Helen, but sometimes the audience really wants to chat with you because it is interactive. And sometimes they don't want to say anything and they just want to sit there and watch you do it. And the show kind of requires a little bit of back and forth in order to feel correct and work and be fun for everybody. And so I think there's a specific kind of energy and presence that you have to have that is different than even being in the largest theater with the largest audience. Just being one-on-one with someone and making eye contact and speaking to them and improvising based on their answers within the framework of the play has been a really specific and cool and exhausting challenge.
Yeah, I had such a hard time at first looking into somebody's eyeballs and saying these lines because we're so used to in theater just looking at your scene
Hmm.
partner and a black audience, right? Because the lights don't reach them. This one you have to, are encouraged to find your answer within the script in somebody, a stranger's eyeballs. And I went up so many times at first because it's such a different skill. But now I really do love it because it is an exercise in connection and presence, like Lucky was saying, and focus, and also non-judgment, because you truly never know what someone is feeling while they're going through the show. They can look so closed off, and for me, as a person and an actor, just be like, they're experiencing it their own way instead of being quick to be like, oh, they're not enjoying themselves. What can I do? It's they're just processing. Everyone processes so differently. So that's been a huge thing for me. Let them be just them and do the best you can as your friend, as their
Sure.
Yeah.
guide.
It's one of the things we look for when we're casting RSC shows is that you got to be able to act, you got to be able to do sketch comedy, some impressions and juggling would be great, a little bit
Right?
musicianship,
Learn to
and you've got to
juggle.
stand on stage and you got to stand on stage and do a play a version of yourself talking to the audience and dealing with what that is. And sometimes that's hard for actors playing a version of themselves, you know.
Yeah, it's been challenging.
Can you talk about you mentioned that that audiences are taking it in their own ways. Can you talk about some memorable moments you've had, good or bad?
It is, there was one that was actually really quite lovely. There's a room that brings about a lot of nostalgia, especially, and I'm not going to give it away, but especially if you are, I think, 50 years old or above, it brings intense nostalgia because it reminds you exactly of what you might have seen growing up. And somebody just hugged me because they were just so moved by it. The side hug that it was very sweet, and she was with the show the entire way. And that was really, really lovely because she just wanted to just sit there and just bask in the nostalgia of it all.
Yeah. I had we have a lot of family groups come through, like all together, and a lot of people who are there on vacation or whatever and just want to come and see the show all together. And so you get like a mix of, like, maybe there's one family, maybe there's some random people that just came to see the show by themselves, and then maybe there's like a group of friends that wanted to have a good time. And by the end, they're all kind of a group together, which is really
Yeah.
wonderful. They become a little community as you move through these experiences together. And sometimes you see people out on the street afterwards, like sticking around, or the little lobby space, which is really beautiful, sticking around and having a drink and chatting with each other and like getting to know who they are and telling stories from their life. And so it kind of extends outside of the building, which I think is really beautiful. I had a group last night that was a family. It was a pair of like adult twins. I don't know, they looked almost identical to me, and their parents. And anytime I interacted with one of the twins, the parents would kind of chat and laugh together and like be delighted that I was interacting with their kid. And then every time I interacted with the parents, the twins would turn and talk to each other. So it was just really, and you're so close to everybody, you can see all of those reactions. And so getting to kind of experience their enjoyment as well in a really direct and specific way, that was really nice. That literally happened last night. I still can't stop thinking about it.
I love watching people go from the very first room. They're like this,
Yeah.
like what is happening? And they're not used to immersive theater either. And I'm like, boo, I get you. I've been there too. And then you can slowly see them warm up and then lean in, and literally their whole body posture changes and their eyes get softer. It's because truly some of them are like this.
Yeah.
Like, what's happening? What is this?
And only in an hour and
it's a
15
lovely
minutes. It's quick.
And it's a lovely surprise what happens in that very first room.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we kind of come out with a bang.
Yeah, you do. And I'm glad none of you are claustrophobic.
Well, some of us are, but you know, we're professionals.
But you are professionals. Well, Lucky, but you've been flying, so this can't be much worse than playing Christmas Past.
No, sure. It's an extremely different experience.
I would imagine, up close and personal. It's cool that you talk about families coming together, or even your audience sort of becoming a group because there's so few of us. It does feel like the show feels like the world's loveliest, sweetest escape room.
Oh, that's nice. I love that.
But it's like an
Going from
emotional
room to
escape room. Like instead of having to like pull keys and open drawers, you're like going into your own brain and your own feelings, which I think is cool.
That's a cool way to describe it. I'm taking that. See, that's theft. I like that theft.
And if they're not describing the show that way on the posters, from now on, they should be.
100%. 100%.
This podcast is a production of the Reduced Shakespeare Company, reducing expectations since 1981. Go to reducedshakespeare.com for performance dates, actor bios, email newsletters, and so much less.